This is the most powerful gesture in Italy. It can be used in all kinds of ways.
Che vuoi? Che significa? It's like that.
It's so popular, it even has its own emoji. But this is just one of the many gestures Italians use.
Like you're framing this concept with your hands and then you're marking it.
You're like skilled. It's too good.
Humans love to use their hands to communicate, but there's not a single people so well known for gesturing as the Italians.
If you got an Italian's hands, he's gonna suffer.
So much so, it has become a meme.
Peter, what are you doing?
Speaking Italian.
So why do Italians gesture so much? If you look online, you can find many superficial answers. But I wanted to get to the bottom of this. To find out, I traveled to Italy, talked to experts, and tried to master gesture myself.
Questo non lo so.
To immerse myself in the topic, I needed to learn how to gesture. And I was lucky, because I found some books that could help me with it. The first one is the Speak Italian, the Fine Art of the Gesture. It was first released in 1958. The author of this book wants to help foreigners understand Italian gestures. Inside, there are a lot of examples. You have the Roman thumb, a gesture that could determine life or death in the arena. In more modern times, we find different gestures. Horns to ward off a curse, hand movements that show boredom. The book also mentions the OK sign, which is a recent import from America. What I found really interesting is how much of the gestures used inside this book also work outside of Italy. And that kind of makes sense. There's only so many ways you can show how to smoke a cigarette. But there's something special about giving a word of honor or showing that an event is nothing of your business. Something that transcends borders. So where do gestures come from? This book actually gives us a first idea for a theory. Could gestures come all the way from the Romans? Italy was of course the center of the Roman Empire. The Roman writer Quintilian describes gestures that orators can use. He says hands can virtually speak and that they are common language across cultures. But Italy wasn't the only place where you could find Romans. So I think we need more theories. Before we do that though, I need to learn how to gesture. And learning from books is one thing, but I think I need a teacher. Online, I found a respected Italian food critic.
Hi, my name is Luis, and today I'm in Paris to try the top 5 and we're gonna see which one is the best.
That also works as a gesture instructor. So I went to Italy to have him teach me how to gesture like a true Italian. And I had to come prepared. I'm in Bologna, a beautiful city with amazing vibes and some mysterious towers. I wonder what's up with those. I was ready to meet my teacher.
Turn this way and then turn the other way. One. Yes. Alright, Jochem. I think you're ready. You look ready. So let's go in the street, look at people's gestures, and ask them about hand gestures.
Walking on the streets of Bologna, I realized how famous Luis the food critic was. But I wasn't here to film people taking selfies. I wanted to know why Italians think they gesture so much.
Siamo un popolo mediterraneo e quindi solo l'espressione intellettuale, che è l'espressione della voce, non può bastare per esprimere quanto viviamo. Quindi la gestualità aiuta.
Quando si è piccoli lo facciamo e ci viene naturale.
I remember when I didn't know how to speak English and I was in the United States as a teenager and I was in class and I wanted to speak to my friends, American friends. I felt powerless because I didn't have this and I was like, and they didn't understand me.
More, come si dice sincero? It's a more
You can say it in Italian.
sincere, how can I say it? More true expression of what I'm actually thinking.
Because you don't say it,
Yeah.
but you show it.
Yeah, I show. I don't have to use the words.
And it felt like a bad dream, like a fever dream, not being able to speak with my classmates. And that was a culture shock.
Naturale, secondo me è una cosa naturale, gesticolare un po' le mani.
Psychologists have seen that there's about 250 gestures that Italians use in a daily life. If we look at the original application to make the pinched fingers into an emoji, it says that the signs comprise a lexicon of gestures that is comparable in size and sophistication to the lexicon of sign languages for the deaf.
Probably the gestures are older than the Italian language because Italy is more like a continent than a country.
This is something every Italian will tell you, that from the outside, Italy seems like a unified country. It has defined borders, a national language, the same cultural heritage. But in reality, Italy is way more divided than you'd actually think.
L'Italia, innanzitutto, è un'Italia giovane, perché non c'ha neanche 200 anni. Ogni regione dovrebbe essere uno Stato, perché ci sono usi, modi, costumi, tutti diversi da un'altra regione.
This leads us to the second theory. Italians needed gestures because Italy didn't exist and Italians didn't speak Italian? Let me explain. In the Roman Empire, the shared language was Latin, but when Rome fell, Italy got fractured. There was never a state strong enough to unify the peninsula for a long time and impose a common language. Instead, you get foreign invaders with beautiful names like the Lombards. The Huns hung around. There were Arabs in Sicily. Normans came to Italy. At one point in the north, there were city-states that were powerful enough to keep invaders out. But from the 1500s to the 18th century, Italian lands were ruled by the French, Spain, and Austria. So what do people speak in these different areas? Latin still existed, but mostly for church and official affairs. Instead, local dialects coming from Latin started to emerge. The people spoke Neapolitan, Venetian, Bolognese. Whatever area they were from, these dialects can be completely different.
But if I go to, I don't know, Veneto or Campania, if I take a person from there and a person from there, they're never gonna understand each other if they speak dialect. It's like two completely different languages.
In Latin, the word for Sunday is Dominica, from the day of the Lord. In modern Italian, it is Domenica. Neapolitan, Romenica. Venetian, Domenica. Bolognese, Manga. So the idea is without a common language, people now developed signs to communicate. Travelers from Protestant countries noticed this. They didn't like it. In a Dutch etiquette book we read Italians are uncivilized because they speak with their head, arm, feet and the whole body. The Englishman Thomas Coria talks about seeing a gesture which seemeth to me both very unseemly and ridiculous. He describes people that wagga their hands up and down very often. This was already in 1613. Now where this theory gets a bit shaky is that Italy is not unique in this. For us it's normal that people from the same nation speak the same language. But that's really a modern thing. Take France. In 1789, about 12 to 13% spoke French fairly well. But 50% didn't speak French at all. So why is it not the French that are so famous for using gestures in our time? Not every Italian gestures the same way though. Going around Bologna, I was a bit disappointed. I found very few people that wagga their hands up and down.
I'm sorry, Jochem. The north of Italy is not the best place where we're gonna find hand gesturing, so I need to take you where the masters are, in the south.
Where in the south?
Naples.
Are we there?
I think you can tell.
Naples is in the south of Italy, a city famous for the Vesuvius, pizza, and its devotion to its local saint.
We're finally here in Naples, in the epicenter of the hand gestures. And it's time for you to practice on the street. Everything I taught you.
Do you think I'm ready?
You are ready. I taught you everything I knew.
Okay. Okay, let's go.
Let's go!
But before we see if my training has gotten the results, it's time for a word of our sponsor. World of Warships, the best free-to-play PC naval combat game that has been making waves for the past 10 years. All hands on deck, because September to the end of the year will be a big celebration. Since 2015, millions of players have dipped into the massive multiplayer online game to enjoy the content that is released every month. The graphics, on more than 40 unique maps with realistic water effects and textures. You can command legendary battleships, cruisers, destroyers, aircraft carriers and even submarines in stunning 12v12 battles. Whether you sail solo or with friends in a division, there's always something new to experience. If you haven't played it yet, this is the best time to take the helm of your own warship. Join today with the invite code XVOYAGE and directly unlock the Japanese cruiser Tenryu, enjoy 20 days of premium account time and much more. But if you're not a new player, there's no man overboard, because you can claim anniversary rewards by just logging back in. There are special win-back rewards you can only get during the anniversary event, like exclusive camouflages and premium time. And the best part? You can also play the game on console. So loose the sails and get going.
Questo non lo so.
Whatever I tried, nothing worked. Italians had no idea what gestures I used. Was it a sign my mic holder died on the way to Naples? Would I ever be ready? One thing that I knew could help was talking to an expert. I'm going to talk to Claudio Nobili, a professor that knows everything about Italian gesture. We set up the meeting to start filming at 1:30.
I'm having a nervous breakdown because we're supposed to meet right now. But Luis still needs to eat, and he's calling the expert we're meeting that we have to have lunch first. So, well...
Non hai ancora pranzato neanche tu? Se vuoi mangiamo qui alla trattoria San Ferdinando. Perché non... Okay.
It's good?
Yeah. He's gonna eat with us because you cannot work with an empty stomach, so...
Yes.
After finding out Luis was right, we had dinner and went into the city. Claudio Nobili believes the gesture is connected to the layout of Naples.
As you can see, in Naples there are a lot of balconies and people talks from one balcony to another. That's one of the reasons why Naples is the main city of gestures. Because gestures are used when there is a communicative barrier, and the distance is one of them. So that with words you can't hear me, but with gesture you can see me.
Naples had many rulers from outside that did not speak Neapolitan. Gesture filled the gap.
Because languages were a barrier, while gestures were a bridge. But also because in Italy, over the years, there was a reflection about using of gestures, the making of repertoires of gestures, so that you can take a book and find them. And this is important also to increase it.
Nobili also told me about Neapolitan hospitality.
There is also a chair without a person, so it's a sign of invitation, okay? If you want, you can sit.
Do you think if I sit, they're gonna be like,
yeah, you
welcome.
You can.
Buongiorno. Can I sit to say with you together?
Non compre.
So this is a new theory. The idea that because some people wrote it down, that somehow these gestures survived. There's one man that is at the start of this.
I'm in this museum, the National Archaeological Museum, to look for Greek statues and frescoes, because there was one writer who thought there might be a link to the history of gesture.
Andrea De Giorgio believed that the hand gestures he saw on the streets were the same as those on Greek vases.
Naples was founded as a Greek colony, and even during Roman times there was a big Greek minority that kept the language, that kept the culture.
He made the first visual dictionary of Neapolitan gesture, and he showed how important they were in communication.
It's like speech pro. It's the Italian pro. You know, you have the language and you have the hand gestures helping you.
So there are different theories about why Italy has gestures. It could be the influence of the Romans, the political and linguistic division of the country, the presence of foreign powers, the fact people describe these gestures. But you can also find some or all of these features outside of Italy, where in some places gestures were lost, In Italy, they stayed. Why is Italy different? To understand this, we have to understand the history of Italy as a nation. For a long time, the notion of a unified Italy was just a dream. As late as 1847, the Austrian diplomat Clemens von Metternich said, "Italy only exists as a geographical expression. There is no national feeling." But Italian nationalists disagree. They think they have a national tradition that goes back centuries. A tradition that started with the most famous author in Italian history.
Behind me is a statue of Dante, the writer of the Divine Comedy. I couldn't really get a good shot from the front. He doesn't get this big of a statue just because he's a great writer. He also did something revolutionary when he wrote his work. He didn't write it in Latin, the language that the elite would use, that the church would use, that government institutions would use. No, he wrote it in his own local Florentine dialect, a language for the people, seen as vulgar. And this changed everything. It was seen as a cultural revolution.
The trend was adopted by other writers, some of whom changed the language a bit to make it easier to write in. Slowly, literary Florentine became a marker for Italian identity. So when Italy gets unified, one choice is easy. That literary dialect becomes the Italian national language.
So what's crazy to think is, if Dante had been born here in Naples, the national language, Italian, would have been the Neapolitan dialect. Isn't that wild?
There was just one problem. Almost no one could speak it. Estimates range from about 2.5% to 10% of the population. Italy might be united, but the old divisions weren't suddenly solved. It was said of this time that we made Italy, now we have to make Italians. And making Italians would take time. In 1950, just 20% of Italians only used Italian to communicate. That's almost 100 years after unification. This is a time that just 11% of the children go to school past the age of 13, leaving a lot less time to learn this language. Eventually, schooling, internal migration and the introduction of television made it possible for people to learn to speak Italian and develop a common culture. But there are still plenty of older people alive now that didn't have the privilege of going to school to learn this language. I think this is another important reason why gestures are still around today, and that Italy may be unified, but the division is not gone.
It's written, I'm not Italian, I'm Napolitan, it's another thing.
Understanding the divide made me understand the power of gesture. I knew I had it in me to communicate in Italian.
No. No.
Don't do that. I was asking if I can sit on the chair. Yeah? Okay.
Natale?
Natale di Napoli o di Mantova?
Ma no, Natale, sei nato dove? Napoli. Non me ne frega niente, perfetto.
Nato.
Lavorare, Mantova.
Ah, ok.
Perfetto, 10 e lode.
Sei stato bravissimo.
Grazie.
Ti faccio una frase di tutta gente.
In the end, every person uses gesture to communicate. And I was really struck by something that Claudio Nobilo told me. How when language is a barrier, gesture is a bridge.
Il mio gesto preferito è questo, che tutte le persone si amino veramente, ma col cuore, e abbiano veramente l'amore di Dio nel proprio cuore, da poterlo trasmettere agli altri.